Look, I think every Canadian story could be told to the world. Whether or not it gets there is like something that I have very little control over. But it was something we created that connected with the entire world, and it is an absolutely profound bit of innovation. Every way, all the ways that we relate to one another now, the way that we participate in this world, the way that we communicate, the way that news and information is disseminated, all of this rests on the shoulders of what these nerds in Kitchener-Waterloo did in the late 90s. And they're not household names, and there isn't a cult of personality around them like there is around pretty much every American entrepreneur and innovator. And there's a sort of Icarus quality to them as well, because they flew too close and then big time.
That's the voice of actor Jay Baruchel. He joined us in studio last week to discuss his upcoming film, BlackBerry. The film comes out on May 12th. It tells the story of BlackBerry's rise and prominent downfall, which has had lasting impacts on today's tech industry. Of course, that story of BlackBerry going from basically half of the market share to zero, that's a story to tell. Our next guest is one of those people that has told that story, literally wrote the book on BlackBerry, and that book was turned into the movie. Silcoff, is the author of Losing the Signal, the untold story behind the extraordinary rise and spectacular fall of BlackBerry. Sean, welcome back to the show. I know you joined us a little while back. Thanks for coming on again.
My pleasure, Lance. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, Sean, how is it? How does it feel to get, a book that you write turned into, a big movie? It heads to the silver screen. How does that feel?
I think it still hasn't sunk in yet. My wife and I went to see the premiere of the movie at the Berlin Film Festival, and then we were here in Toronto a couple of weeks ago to see the premiere here. It's great. Jackie McNish and I spent a long time putting this story together, and it's great to see all these years later that the story is getting a new audience through this great movie, this ridiculously entertaining movie. You've seen it, right?
I've seen it, yes, and I loved it. I mean, I can't speak highly enough about the film. I think they nailed it. To put it simply here.
Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting because there's always adaptations which take some liberties with the original story or change things around, dates, composite characters, that sort of thing. This movie has that as well, as you see in just about every adaptation. But it's like, it kind of reminded me actually when I saw that show Hamilton. Hamilton's like one of the best Broadway plays ever, and it's based on one of the most terrific histories ever. And it's like, if you want to get a full story, a full view of the story, watch the movie or the play, read the book. And I think that's going to be the same thing for people who are, interested in the legacy of this smartphone company that basically changed the way we communicate. To see the movie, read the book, and you get a full appreciation of just what this company did and helped put Canadian technology on the map.
And of course, it's difficult to squeeze a book into a movie that's an hour and a half or 2 hours here. But let's talk about the success and transferring that your book into that. What do you think the movie does really well when it comes to capturing what you and your co-author wrote about years back?
Well, I think on many of the big things that move the story, they represent those really well. Like Jim and Mike, the two co-CEOs, didn't talk to each other after BlackBerry, and it was because of something very specific that happened. I won't spoil it for people who want to see the movie, but it's represented there fairly well on screen, and the fact that you have these two CEOs, one who is this absolute business shark who was strategically gifted and could see around corners, as it were, and then a tech genius coming together, this odd pairing, that's obviously very well represented. And the fact that these guys were pretty unique and alone in figuring out how to put data and wireless communication together. A lot of other folks had tried. No one could figure out how to do it well. They did, and the way they did it was by creating this device that was very addictive, easy to use. All the complicated technology behind it, they kept that away from the user. So it was just, you pulled it out and it worked. And also it came out when email was exploding everywhere. And this gave you a chance to attend to your emails, when you were lining up for for at the airport or in a taxi or in a boring meeting. And people just became addicted because they could get stuff done and it was fun to do it. They were in the right place at the right time with the right technology, and then some pretty brilliant strategies to get it out into the world very quickly.
We're with Sean Silcoff, co-author of the book Losing the Signal, the untold story behind the extraordinary rise and spectacular fall of BlackBerry. That book has been turned into the feature film, which comes to theaters on May 12th. Sean, how much say do you have, once they buy the rights to the book, how much say do you have in the movie? How much do they come back to you asking for advice?
Well, let's put it this way. I didn't see the script, and I didn't see the movie until I sat down to watch the movie for the first time. It was a good process in terms of they were very friendly and consulted with us a fair bit. They asked us a few questions here and there, but this was their story to tell in their way, in their medium. I'm an ink-stained wretch. I write stories. I'm not a script writer, and so I think there's probably very good reasons why that process is very different in that way. But they kept us posted. Both Jackie and I got to actually visit the set last June when they were just wrapping up their principal photography. So a very friendly process all throughout.
Your book came out in 2015. Now we're 8 years later. With the passage of time, has your take or view of the BlackBerry saga changed at all?
Well, they were great innovators and terrible followers. And when the market changed all around them, thanks in part to the arrival of newcomers like Apple and Google, but also because of giant seismic shifts like the telecommunications companies saying, okay, Apple, you can come and open an app store. That changed everything around for them. And I think there's more lessons than ever from the story. And we wanted this to kind of be like a timeless case study. This wasn't just about wireless communications 25 years ago. It's about innovation. It's about building a big company. It's about fighting off the giants. And it's about watching over your back and under your feet, because you never know what's going to pull the rug out from under you or come crashing after you. And you can never take that for granted. And the game of innovation is just a continual race, and the leaders and losers change positions all the time.
One of the reasons why I felt the film was so successful, and you touched on this, the two big characters, right? Whether it's Jay Baruchel as Mike Lazaridis, and then you've got the character of Jim Balsillie here. Those characters they're so good on the screen here. But I want to ask you about Jim Balsillie in particular, because he showed up to the Toronto premiere. And I got to say, the movie doesn't paint the greatest picture of the guy, and I guess your book doesn't either, right? So what about those characters and the fact that Jim Balsillie years later shows up to the premiere?
Well, I think like anyone, he's curious, and particularly curious, given that it's a portrayal of him. It does represent aspects of his character quite well, and he actually said, I own that. I own that I'm a competitive, hard-driving person. But I would say that, maybe unflattering, but also very flattering in ways. Like, I think the movie makes clear that company would not have been successful and not lifted without what he brought to the company. And we cover some of his tactically brilliant moves, including fooling Nokia, completely putting one over them. Before Apple came along. And, he made that all happen along with Mike Lazaridis' great inventions. So, I think the movie does celebrate that and acknowledge it. The performances are great and it's a lot of fun. But again, watch the movie, read the book, and you'll get a full and complete sort of sense of these guys and what they built.
Well, Sean, both the book and now the film, both terrific pieces of work, and thank you so much for coming on the program to discuss it.
Always a pleasure.
Sean Silcoff, co-author of Losing the Signal, the untold story behind the extraordinary rise and spectacular fall of BlackBerry. It has inspired the new film, which comes out on May 12th, BlackBerry.